MasterClass show, where 6 and 7-figure CEOs build their purpose-driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School Masterclass show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission-driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week same place and time for our upcoming show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life School Masterclass show, the place for practical, easy to implement, 20 minutes or less business and leadership advice to really help you build a life and business on purpose while still making the income and the impact that you are looking for. I'm Ilona Lopari, former 500 corporate CEO turned purpose-driven entrepreneur, and I'm so excited to have with me today an amazing guest. But before I go into our great conversation that we're going to be having today, I want to let you know about the strategic partnership, that if you're looking for a great strategic partnership opportunity in your business with a purpose-driven brand and company Arbonne in the health and wellness space, then definitely reach out for more information on that. So I will dive right into the show today. I have an amazing guest. It's a return visit. He had me on his show. So this is such a beautiful thing to be able to get to know a little bit more regarding his work and this important topic today, 5 steps to thriving on adversity. I know adversity is definitely one of those things that we're feeling with everything happening and the uncertainty that we have in the economy, which has affected our businesses, the way we operate, the way that we are moving forward with all the different, stages of our lives. So Peter Wright, thank you so much for coming on our show today. Looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better and also talking a little bit more regarding this topic today.
Thank you, Ilona. It's good to be on this side of the microphone and camera from a month or so ago when we had the pleasure of having you on our podcast. So thank you for returning the opportunity.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure. I had so much fun on your show, and you're going to tell us again where we will find your show at the end of this show, as everything is about collaboration. And you also do a lot of amazing work over there with all the content that you create. So to start every conversation, I usually started with asking my guests to kind of give us a little introduction or background that has led up to the work that you're doing today.
Sure. I've had a different life to most people in the first world. It's been a very interesting life. So I was born in London, England, and I'm quite old. So this was not that long after the Second World War. Things were fairly dismal there, and my dad worked for the British government and got the opportunity to get posted to a country called Rhodesia in Africa on a 3-year term. So off we went, and it was an idyllic place for a boy to be brought up because the climate is beautiful. It's never too hot nor too cold. Wide open spaces. Cost of living was low. And I had a horse from the age of 7. And then the British government wanted to send my dad back to England. He said, no, we're enjoying this too much. So he left and he started farming. And that meant the money got a bit tight. And I had to work quite hard as a kid. Killing chickens, milking cows, the whole farm boy deal. But it taught me how to work. And then I grew up in Rhodesia. We had a terrorist war. All able-bodied men had to serve in the military. So that was yet another experience, which taught me a lot. And then I moved to South Africa after I got married and had 2 kids. The political outlook for Rhodesia was not good. Lived in South Africa 14 years or so, and then things changed there. I had my own business for many years, and overnight, the whole thing went wheels up because I was export trading, sending stuff to various African countries, and civil war broke out in my 2 biggest countries. So my business evaporated overnight. Not only did it stop my income, but I'd personally guaranteed all my company business loans and credit for purchases. So I went down for a huge amount of money and lost everything. And my marriage had broken up as well. And my brother was still in Zimbabwe. So let me go back a step. Things were changing politically in South Africa, and job opportunities for middle-aged white guys were about as scarce as hen's teeth. So And my brother said, "Why don't you come back to Zimbabwe? It's fairly quiet." And it was. So I went back. I started another business, met my current wife, took over the family farm. We had 10 really good years. And then things went upside down there. The president decided he didn't want any more commercial farmers. It was all political. It wasn't racial at all. But we ended up being chased off our farm. I was put in jail for 3 days and nights as a means of getting me off the farm. And we walked away with nothing, lost everything there. But my eldest son had moved to Canada, said, "Come and have a look." And we came to Canada, and we arrived literally with 2 suitcases, a horse saddle, 6 cats, and enough cash to buy a very old used pickup in our mid-50s. And that's how we started again. So in a nutshell, that's been my life.
Wow, wow. Well, you've had your fair share of adversity for sure, since this is what we're talking about today. And you're reminding me of, my parents doing the same thing, kind of rebuilding in a new country with a suitcase and 3 small kids, not speaking the language and all of that.
Yep.
So how do you think that affected you personally going through that? Or what kind of impact did it have on you, or maybe on the work that you do today? I'm sure it's
sure.
It's effective.
I think one's ability to overcome adversity builds incrementally. So my first taste, if you like, was going from a fairly affluent family background where my mother didn't work, was a full-time stay-at-home mum. And then when my dad had a salary, then going farming and being short of money and having to work quite hard as a kid, whereas none of my schoolmates did, because I was at a school in an urban area. We didn't have other farm children there. So very often kids would be going off to cinema and I'd have to go home to milk cows, for instance. So that was the first taste. And then when I moved to South Africa, there was exchange control, so we weren't allowed to take much with us. Furniture, personal possessions, car had to be at least 5 years old, and not much cash. Started again, and then my job fell through, and I had to sell life insurance in a strange country, and that was tough. But that was added another layer, if you like, onto the ability to the resilience is probably the best term. And then so when we left Rhodesia, we couldn't sell our house. So I only had a small mortgage, but I gave the keys to the bank, said take it over. And then when things went bad in South Africa, for all sorts of reasons, the area I had a little country estate with 5 acres. Squatters were moving in all over, so property values plummeted, and I couldn't sell that one. So I gave the keys back to the bank as well. And then I went back to Zimbabwe, as it had become, with nothing, not even a car. I went on the bus, started again, but because of the previous tough periods, I'd built up the resilience to handle that. And then the worst one in Zimbabwe, when the police threw me in the police cell, and it was really bad conditions. I think all the other tough parts of my life had given me enough resilience to withstand that. So what I'm trying to say is that if one can get through one level of adversity, it builds that resilience so you're a better place to get through the next level. And it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how healthy you are, how well placed and stable you think the world is. I know from personal experience that can change in a heartbeat, and for many reasons. It doesn't have to be political. When I was in the corporate world and I ended up marketing manager of a big corporation before I went on my own business, there was a merger and I survived the merger, but many senior executives, 50, 60 years old with lifetime experience with one company, didn't fit in the new mold, and they were just let go with not that good packages. And there were people who thought they were there for life until their big pensions kicked in, and overnight their worlds were destroyed. So we all need to be prepared. I think no matter how wealthy or safe we think we might be, and this recent pandemic's a huge example. It knocked out many businesses, and that's life. That happens. Sorry, I'm rambling, but that's the picture or the story I'm trying to get across, is you need to be prepared.
Yeah, no, the message coming through very clearly, right? Because that's what I'm hearing from your, life story and the topic that we're speaking about today, that, you persevere, you adapt, you learn how to do all of that. And a lot of times it's in the face of adversity or uncertainty, when a lot of things that are happening are not voluntarily chosen, right? They come, the rug is swept with from under us, and we have to figure out a solution. And that's actually where we find out how resourceful we are. So that's the lesson, or I guess the message is that to keep going and to find, problem solving abilities in the face of adversity, as it happens when you least expect it. And that's, we all could share a personal story around that. For me, again, it was, working so early and being an adult very early on, at 14 and 15. I was the oldest, kid, and needed to help my parents. So now looking back, it's all the challenges that I overcame at a young age. It's sort of built the resilience, the drive, the fire that I have today, because I know what it could be on the other end as well. So I think that's why I asked you that question: how did it impact you? Because I'm sure that it absolutely was. Peter, you also have written a book, so let's talk about that. The 5 Steps to Thriving on Adversity. What are some advice that you can give our audience of entrepreneurs that you've written about in your book on overcoming adversity?
Sure. So the first of the 5 steps that I mentioned in my book, obviously there's more. I just picked out 5. The first one might sound strange to many people, but to me, it's one of the most important. It's choice. When, as you just alluded to, Ilona, whenever we're faced with a circumstance, good or bad, we have a choice how we view that. And in my book, I use the story of divorce as a prime example. And divorce is a painful subject, but it's an ideal example of what I'm about to say. So if a married couple are going along quite smoothly, and like most married couples, they're having their ups and downs, and one of those two is having an affair, the other one does not know about it, life carries on fairly smoothly with the ups and downs, right? So suddenly the other partner finds out, either because the one having the affair confesses, or a friend, whatever, it doesn't matter. The other one finds out, and his or her world is destroyed. The only thing that has changed is the knowledge and the choice to be upset by what's going on. The affair was there. It may have been for weeks or months or years. It doesn't matter. It was there. So I'm not saying that everyone should forgive an unfaithful partner. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, at that point, it's our choice, our individual choice, how we react. Yes, of course, if we're the partner that's being the other one's been unfaithful to, we're going to be upset, we're going to be angry, we might want a divorce, we might want all sorts of things, but we have a choice how we react. And that is true of so many situations in life. Things are not inherently good or bad, they just are, right? The pandemic is terrible, but some people have made a lot of money because of it. Some people have lost a lot of money because of it, right? It's a choice of how we react. In my case, I was doing quite a lot of public speaking. Overnight, that stopped. What I do, start a talk show, okay? So has it replaced all the income I lost? No. But has it led to a lot of other things? Yes. So it was a conscious choice. So that's the point I'm getting at. Right at the moment, we have forecasts of doom and gloom because diesel stocks in North America are the lowest they've been since 2005. And the diesel, I was reading this morning, the diesel premium is the highest it's been since 2005. And so much of our economy relies on diesel. So should we panic? No. Should we take a few precautions? Probably. Should we be aware of it? Yes. But let's not let that one factor destroy us. Same with the war in the Ukraine. Can I do anything about it? Not a thing. Should I get upset about it? No, because there's nothing I can do about it. Who's right, who's wrong? Doesn't matter. Right? So this is what I was saying about choice. Let's use our mental anguish, if you want, or our mental powers to things we can control, not things we can't control. So, yes, it's terrible that people are getting killed in the Ukraine, and it's terrible that Russia is sending missiles in, and it's terrible Ukraine's blowing up whatever. Yeah, it's all terrible, but watching it over and over is not helping them, and it's not helping me. So be aware of it, let it go. Let's spend my time on something else that I can make a difference on. So that's where I talk about choice, right? It's everything is up to us. Things are just what they are, and it's up to us how we react or respond to them.
Wow, that's powerful. Just like you said, right? It's not helping them, and it's not serving you, and that I would say energy put in unpurposefully in the wrong direction is not going to really, make a change in our lives, right? And not to mention the way that we're going to feel about it. So choice is powerful, and empowering yourself with that, and deciding that you do have a choice on the interpretation, the storytelling that we give ourselves through the different, situations of adversity that we might face. I'd love to know about the other 4 steps if you can. I think that's really insightful. So
Sure.
choice 1.
So the next one was determination. Just keeping on is the best way to describe that. So I had 4 little stories in the book, and when I first went to South Africa, as I said, my job fell through, and that was in the 1979. There was no in Southern Africa, both Rhodesia, where I lived in South Africa, there was no social safety net. There was no unemployment insurance. I think some of the unions had, maybe for unionized people, but essentially, if you were a salaried worker, if you lost your job, that was it. You got no benefit from the government until the old age pension was very small. So you had to do something to provide for yourself. So I lost my job. I'm new to the country, don't know anyone. There's a bit of a recession on, and I couldn't get another job in a hurry, and I had a wife and kids to feed. So I started, first of all, selling a wall plaster, which is like a 20-year lasting paint, which was a bit of a con job, door to door. So the trick was we walked around, this is way before the internet, right? So we walked around suburbs in the afternoon, knocking on doors. A lot of women didn't work then, wives were at home, making appointments to come back and talk to them and their husbands at night. It's the old Britannica encyclopedia selling type thing. We'd go back in the evenings and try and sell this couple on spending 10 times what they would normally spend to paint their house. It was awful. But I made enough, and we paid for our own gas, our own car, everything, commission only. I made enough to feed my family and pay the rent for about 6 or 8 months. And I got bitten by a couple of dogs in that process, threatened with assault by a couple of irate husbands. And then after 6 months, I said, this is just unethical. I cannot do this. I cannot do it. I've got to feed my kids, but I can't do it. And then I joined a life insurance company, and I sold life insurance for a year. Same story, just making cold calls and a lot of walking, knocking on doors. Didn't do that well, but fed the kids, kept the rent paid for another year in a strange country. That taught me a lot. So it was just a determination that it was awful. It was terrible work, but I didn't give up. I had to just keep on and on going and bring that money in for the kids. So I did. And then I got a job, my first job in the corporate world, and I was really lucky. I got promotions, and it went really well. But if it hadn't been for that determination in the beginning, the only option would be, I had a British passport, would have been to go back to UK and live in the welfare state, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So determination, you've got to keep, even when everything looks totally grim, you must keep putting one foot in front of the other. And the better analogy is I started running marathons, and in South Africa there was a very long marathon called the Comrades Marathon. It was the biggest ultra marathon in the world at the time, and it was 85 kilometers or 50 odd miles from sea level to 2,500 feet, and then the next year would be down. It's a tough race. It's very hilly, and it's hard. I did 4 of them. The only way you do that, no matter how strong, fit, healthy, determined you are, is concentrate on putting one foot in front of the other, and then do it again and do it again. You do it 85,000 times for an average person for that race. But that, to me, is the epitome of determination. Just no matter how tired, just move that one foot forward, one pace, and then the next, and then the next. That's it.
That's it. One step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Sometimes 5 steps back and 2 steps forward. It's like a tango of life. Amazing. So choice, determination. What's the third one?
Well, I linked 2 together on this one, and that was gratitude and acceptance. So I put them together. I mentioned acceptance a little bit under choice. Accept the things that you can't change. So something happens. Yes, it's happened. Let's get over it and move forward. But gratitude. Soon after I moved to Canada, I think it was soon after I had my heart attack and my income stopped overnight. I was desperately short of money, and I think we were down to we'd put our last $5 in the church collection box on a Sunday, and we're old now, so we have no kids to worry about. We still got to feed ourselves and pay the rent, and we don't know how we're going to feed ourselves for the next week until I had some money coming in for something, but it was going to be a week. We have no money for the week, and we need gas. And we're wondering what we're going to do, and we go to the mailbox, and in the mailbox there's an envelope with no name on it, and there's a $500 prepaid credit card. $500. We think we know who it was from, a wealthy old lady at our church, we think, but we're not 100% sure. But and I believe we got that because we've been grateful for everything else, all the other help we've been given since we were in Canada, and for most of my life. So that carried forward, and then we have a big lawn. So we had a lawn tractor, and our lawn tractor died. And we didn't know how we'd buy a new one, and within 2 days of that lawn tractor stopping working, a guy pitches up in a pickup. We didn't know him that well. He says, "I've got a lawn tractor for you." I said, "But we can't afford it." He says, "Don't have to. Somebody's paid for it. Neighbors paid for it." "Who?" "No, I'm not allowed to tell you. It's not very good. It'll last you maybe a season or two, but it's yours." And wow. So can you imagine how grateful we were for that? So there's two examples, right? And I believe even if I look back at I'm jumping around a little bit, the 3 or 4 days I spent in the police cells in Zimbabwe, where I was the only white guy with at times 26 black guys, and that was the least of my problems. Elsewhere in Africa, that could be a death sentence, but it was an unbelievably good experience, which despite being so horrible in other ways, I'm very grateful for, because that taught me humility. I'm digressing, but there were guys there that were so poor they would never live in a house with running water or electricity, never own a car, be lucky ever to own a bicycle and a transistor radio. And we all smoked in those days, so I had managed to get my kids to bring cigarettes to hand out to all these guys so they could smoke. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, this guy, one of these very poor guys, comes crawling across all the bodies trying to lie down in the cell and says, "Sir, here's a cigarette." And I said, "No, I told you to go to my sons and get that. That's for you." He said, "No, I thank you. I got two though, but I got one for me and I got one for you as well." And I mean, despite my problems, in their eyes, I was wealthier than anything they could imagine in their wildest dreams, right? And here's this guy crawling across the cell to give me a cigarette because he wants to help me.
Wow. I mean,
so
it's inspiring. It's all about perception, right? So I love how that kind of story turned that way.
So that's gratitude and acceptance. And we've mentioned acceptance. So then I got on to the next one is think. And this you might think this is a strange one about overcoming adversity, but think, it ties in a little bit with choice, but think. So many people panic when things go wrong. And this pandemic is a prime example of that. And I saw it with my own eyes. People way more better educated, more intelligent than me, panicking about what might happen. And I said, well, have you checked the statistics? Have you checked the science? You're healthy. The chances of this hitting you are so slim. What are you worrying about? So the example I give about think is, having grown up in Africa, we carried guns were tools. They weren't matter symbols. They were just tools. We had very few mass shootings because people were brought up to handle guns responsibly from a very young age. So at one time in South Africa, car hijacks were terrible. I carried a gun all the time, and I just got home, and I'd been listening to a news item that morning about a car in the next suburb, BMW, being hijacked and the driver shot. And as I got out of my car, I heard footsteps racing up to me, and I thought they were coming to attack me. So I pulled my gun, and I was about to pull the trigger, and I realized there was something wrong with the picture that I was seeing. So I didn't pull the trigger. And that's what I'm talking about, thinking when things are really bad. You have to think. Otherwise, you take actions which are not necessarily the best. So in all cases, when things go wrong, when things look bad, think and make conscious decisions rather than just react.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the last one is? The last
one is perseverance.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. which is different to determination. And again, I use the analogy of the marathon, putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and keeping on going. The best example I can give you of perseverance is my mother's story, and this I write this in the book. She was injured in August 1978 in a terrorist ambush and shot through the hip, and spent 4 months in hospital and told she would never walk again. And while she was still in hospital, having never been out of her bed, my father, on the 30th of December, 1979, not 78, my father was on the way to visit her and he got ambushed and he was murdered. So I flew up from South Africa to be with my mother, and we took her out of hospital for the first time in a wheelchair to go to my father's funeral. So here's a woman of 56 who's crippled, told she'll never walk again. She's lost her home. She's lost her husband. She has no income. The country is in flames and about to fall to pieces. And you would think she had no hope whatsoever. And she said, I'm going to walk and I'm going to get on with my life and I'm not going to let this stop me. And she went into rehabilitation and she was treated in a swimming pool, learned to walk, and then walked with 2 crutches. Then she had a caliper on her leg, walked with 2 canes, then 1 cane, and then most of the rest of her life with no cane at all. Excuse me. And she moved to a little cottage on my brother's place, and she lived a very happy and fruitful life until she moved back to England in 2000, and she lived until she was 90 years old. And yes, she was upset. Yes, she was a little bitter in a way, but she didn't let it destroy her life. So her determination was such a lesson to me that, and her perseverance, should I say, in just getting over that huge obstacle of being told you'll never walk again. And because the nerves were completely gone in her leg. And she did. And she made the most of it. She lived a very fruitful and long life just by persevering, keeping on. So that was the 5th one.
Yeah, wow, I love that. And the modeling she showed for you as her son, that's also very powerful there as well. I love that story. So sounds like, thank you so much, Peter, for everything you share with us. Amazing framework. Sounds like the framework for success also, despite adversity, right? Because in order for us to have the things we want, we have to go through adversity. It's just part of the journey, especially being an entrepreneur. So I love how this is all like unraveled and connected, and the way that you have a framework set up for people that are looking to navigate some of the adversity with their business, their personal lives, other areas they might be going through something at this time. And that framework, again, is so clear, applicable. And I don't know if you offer a certain way for people that are going through to come, find you and you can support them further with that. But if not, that would be a great other way to serve people at this stage and face with the framework that you have built. Peter, I would love to ask you, we're actually towards the end of our interview. I usually ask my guests from their school of life, what is the final message that you'd like to share with our audience? And also, where is it that our audience can find a little bit more information regarding all the amazing work you do with public speaking, and also where can they find the book?
Okay, so I think the final, I've said enough on overcoming adversity. There's 2 points that I haven't covered. The one is take action. It is so easy when things go wrong to sit in a huddle, watch TV, play video games, drink, take drugs, whatever, and do nothing. So my big message there, and this is one that helped me, is get out and do something. If you can't do anything else, go for a walk. Just walk around the block. If you're in the country, walk and look at the farms. If you can help your neighbor clear snow, if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere, if you can help an old lady get out of a car to go to church, whatever, just take action. Anything you do to help someone else will help you and will stop you sitting there going into moral decay because you've got nothing to do. So taking action is a huge one for me. That's very, very big. How can people contact me? I've mentioned my website, peterwrightsblog.com. You can get my book there. My talk show is theyackingshow.com, and we have a shop on there. We have my book on there. We have other books on there. We have some of the excerpts from our premium members on there, and I do some consulting. So if somebody wants to spend some time talking to me, if I can help them, we can certainly have a chat. There's a way to book time on that on the yakkingshow.com.
All right, beautiful. Well, Peter, thank you again for being our show today, for all the amazing wisdom and the inspiration you shared through covering a lot of the framework that you probably speak about in your public speaking as well, right? Because a lot of times I know as coaches, consultants, we organically speak about our experience and the lessons that we have learned in the attempt to educate, inspire, an audience. So I'm sure that you are doing that as well with all the amazing things that you have going on. I want to thank you again, and we might have you back on our show. Thank you so much for everything you shared with us.
Thank you very much, Ilona. It was a great pleasure to be here. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks again. Bye, everybody, and I'll see you in another amazing guest. Bye for now. You are looking for a great strategic partnership with a well-known brand, Arbonne, that is a global brand, let me know, and we will be able to see if the opportunity that Arbonne has to offer is in great alignment with your life and business lifestyle choices and also your goals. Arbonne is a health and wellness company, and their mission is to improve people's health through their mind, body, and skin. Let me know if this is something that you're interested in, and we'll be more than happy to offer you more information on it.